Former Spurs midfielder Gus Poyet on the Spurs job if Igor Tudor is sacked in the near future. He said, why not me? Jurgen Klinsmann said, who would say no? It's Tottenham. Harry Redknapp has come out and said, I'd go back. Daniel Levy phoned me last week and he said, if I was still there, I would have appointed you until the end of the season. Postecoglou said the players look lost at the moment. Jamie O'Hara has come out and said, Tudor is one of the worst appointments I've ever seen. Reports are stating that Sean Dyche is being considered if Igor Tudor is sacked. Wayne Rooney said, I think Spurs will be relegated. Gary Neville said, I don't think Spurs will go down because they will make another change. Chris Waddle, Spurs legend, has come out and said it is a business at Tottenham. The club should always be in the top four. Tottenham have extended season ticket renewal deadline for general admission season tickets because of threat of relegation. Dominic Solanke has come out and said we have to be brave and strong. And reports are stating there is interest from other clubs for Destiny Udogie, Archie and Antonín Kinský is seeking a loan for next season. Hi everyone, hope you're well. Chris Cowlin here. This is another edition of Tottenham News where I'll be going for all of the latest Spurs news, rumours and reports. If you're watching on YouTube, please do hit that subscribe button, like, share and comment below. And if you're listening to this on an audio platform, please do hit the follow button and leave a review if you can. So let's start by talking about Spurs boss Igor Tudor. He will be in the dugout for the Liverpool game at Anfield on Sunday, as Spurs will be travelling to Liverpool to face the champions at 4:30 p.m. Spurs are currently 16th in the Premier League table, 1 point above the relegation zone. Now, he will take his press conference at Hotspur Way ahead of the Liverpool game on Friday at 1:30 p.m. Now, it's been reported by many outlets, the Sun newspaper, the Daily Mirror and also the Independent and others, that Sean Dyche is being considered by Tottenham Hotspur as a potential replacement should Spurs replace Igor Tudor in the near future. Various reports in Italy are stating that Juventus have made contact with Spurs to gather information regarding the availability of left-back Destiny Udogie ahead of the summer transfer window. Real Madrid goalkeeper Courtois has come out and said that he has sent a message of support to Spurs goalkeeper Antonín Kinský. He said, I sent him a message on Instagram. It is tough. It is hard mentally. He is surrounded by his club and his teammates. This will work out. I also made mistakes at Atletico Madrid and Chelsea. When Lionel Messi once nutmegged me twice in the same game, I also got a lot of flack. It wasn't as bad as it was for him, but I know that this is very difficult. I told him to see it as a learning experience. He has talent and he needs to keep working hard. The fact that he was in goal also means that the coach had a lot of confidence in him. Now, the club have just announced that Dominic Solanke's remarkable scorpion kick in our 2-2 draw at the Tottenham Hotspur Stadium against Manchester City has just been voted as the Premier League's Adobe Express Creative Moment of the Month. He becomes the second recipient of the award, which was created in January 2026 to receive flashes of brilliance and celebrate moments of creativity in the Premier League. The unforgettable moment, which our number 19 describes as 1 in a million, has also been nominated for the Premier League's Goal of the Month award. Now, Jamie Donley scored his first goal for new loan club Oxford United on Wednesday night to hand them a vital 1-0 home victory against Blackburn Rovers. Gary Neville has been talking about Tottenham's situation, Igor Tudor and the Kinský situation. On the Kinský situation, Neville said, I thought it was brutal. I thought the whole thing of the last couple of weeks and then the whole thing is just a car crash. It is a shambles. The problem I had with Igor Tudor's interview, I think that he has got to come in there and say, look, I got this wrong. I should have left Vicario in the net, but he didn't. He doubled down. If you're Spurs and you're going to make another change, that for me needs to be today or tomorrow because you don't want to wait. Gary Neville has then gone on to speak about possible relegation for Tottenham. He said, I must admit seeing Tottenham go down wouldn't be great for Tottenham fans, and I think Tottenham are an amazing club, but it would be very good for the Premier League from a competitive perspective and the idea of Leeds staying up, of Sunderland staying up. I'll tell you what I was more worried about at the start of the season, that every club that came up was going to go straight back down again. I think the Premier League doesn't necessarily need Tottenham to go down, but it does need clubs other than the ones that come up to go down. It would be sad to go down, but maybe they've had it coming. Now, Wayne Rooney has been talking to Gary Neville about, do they think that Spurs will be relegated? Rooney said the players need to look at themselves because they have been an absolute disgrace. The performances, the attitude, the lack of desire, the lack of fight, and there is a real lack of everything in them. Last week, I didn't think it, but after seeing what has happened in the last couple of games, I think that they will go down. Gary Neville then responded and said, I don't think that they will go down. I think they are going to make another change. For me, probably needs to be today or tomorrow because you don't want to wait. My view is that they will make a change and stay up. That's what I think will happen. Wayne Rooney then went on to talk about the possible appointment of Robbie Keane at Spurs. He said, if I was Robbie Keane, I wouldn't go into Tottenham right now. If I was Tim Sherwood or whoever is out of a job, I'd go in there. But if I'm Robbie Keane, there's no way that I'd leave a job to go in at Tottenham. Gary Neville then went on to say, I don't think that group of players will buy into the idea of bringing in someone who has not been a coach for a long time just because they used to play for the club. They will see right through it. It will have to be someone who's been coaching recently. Sean Dyche would take the job now 100% to be in the game and have the chance to manage a top six team. I know that they are not at the moment. I know it's ridiculous saying that, but they are a massive club. Tudor's tried to go in a bit harder, be a bit more regimented and disciplined. It is not working. They are 100% rejecting the manager. They will need someone to go in there who has got more man management ability. Now, former Spurs midfielder Jamie O'Hara has been talking on Sky Sports about Spurs and Igor Tudor. He said it's been a disaster all season. The mentality has not been there. The players have not been good enough. They underperformed under Thomas Frank, and his style of football was so pragmatic, the players weren't in tune with it. But they sacked him and brought in this guy, and it has got 10 times worse. You're meant to get a bounce, but he comes in, all guns blazing, digs out the players, says there are problems, this and that. He hasn't built any confidence in the squad. You can see it in the players' body language. It is one of the worst appointments I have ever seen at Tottenham. Former Spurs boss Harry Redknapp on would he manage Spurs if asked by the club. He said, I've been asked a few times if I'd go back to Spurs and it's probably not going to happen, is it? Would I go back? Of course I would, but I doubt very much it is going to happen. Redknapp then went on to say they've got it all on to stay up. It's going to be hard. I'm looking at the fixtures and Nottingham Forest are playing all right. West Ham are playing well. It's going to be tough for Tottenham. They haven't been in touch, not all. I hope Spurs stay up and I hope West Ham stay up. Now, Harry Redknapp has been talking about Tottenham and speaking to former chairman Daniel Levy recently. He said, I got a phone call last week from Daniel. I think I spoke to him once since I left all that time ago, and I was in the car last week and suddenly the phone goes, it's Daniel Levy. And he said to me, if I was there now, Harry, and I'm not just saying this, I'd bring you back until the end of the season. So it would have been interesting. Now, former Spurs midfielder Gus Poyet on would he take the Tottenham job? He said, with respect to Igor Tudor, yes, for sure. I mean, I know everything. Sometimes they don't put me in that position. But, you know, I remember before Igor Tudor got the job, people were talking about Robbie Keane, rightly so. They were talking about Tim Sherwood, rightly so. Even Harry Redknapp, they were asking for him. Gus Poyet then went on to say, I was sitting at home and thinking, why not me? I've been there. I know the place. I know the relegation battle. I know what needs to be done. Well, at least I have experience. I know the Premier League. It is sometimes funny that your name is not related there, but I know that that is the way it is now. Poyet then went on to say, you have to put yourself in the press. If they think it is me for the job, I'd be more than happy, but it wasn't. And now the only thing I want as a coach is for Igor Tudor to sort it out for him as a coach. To have that feeling that he has sorted it out and Tottenham stay up, nothing else. Gus Poyet then went on to say, if he was the Spurs job, he said, the first meeting that I would have is with Captain Romero. I tell you what, the only thing I would sit down with him and talk in Spanish. Make sure that we understand each other clearly because it is a player that you need in the best form for Tottenham to be safe. Now, Spurs fans' favourite and legend Jurgen Klinsmann on Tottenham's situation. He said, who wouldn't want the Tottenham job? It's Tottenham. Whoever you choose, you need a person who can connect to everyone emotionally, that knows the football club, that feels the football club, that feels the people. Because to get out of this mess, they need to develop a fighting spirit, a really nasty, ugly fighting spirit that goes only over the emotions. Klinsmann then wanted to say, so you don't need to have or bring in mastermind of tactical stuff or whatever. You just need to have somebody who comes in, gets everybody on board and goes and gets these games done in a positive way and gets everybody behind the fact that they are in danger of going down to the Championship. Now, former Spurs captain and manager Tim Sherwood on Igor Tudor and Tottenham. He said he keeps chopping and changing things, which is a worry, to be honest. He has gone from a back three to a back four, then back to a back three again, with players playing out of position. I've scratched my head at some of the decisions that he has made since he has come in. Sherwood then wanted to say he hasn't given the players a lift at all. He's a firefighter who has a can of petrol in his hand at the moment. He's adding fuel to the fire rather than restoring confidence to these players. Hopefully he can turn it around, but if he doesn't, I think that Spurs might roll the dice again. There is an international break after their game against Forest, which would be a good opportunity for a new manager to come in and have a look at things. Former Spurs boss Ange Postecoglou has been talking about Tottenham's current situation. He said it definitely looks like the players are fairly lost at the moment. There is obvious pressure there and it is a really difficult time, and it manifested itself on what happened against Atletico Madrid on Tuesday. It was almost a worst case scenario. You're playing against a side away from home in Atletico who are always at a really high level. It was just a horror start for them. It's hard for me to say, and me speaking about it skews the argument. There's no way objectively that these players are performing at the levels that they are capable of. Someone just has to ease the pressure on them. Postecoglou then went on to say, I thought it was a tremendous opportunity for them. They have done really well in the Champions League this season and they are on the better side of the draw. Atletico Madrid is tough, but they still had to take them back to Tottenham. I'm sure that they trained on the pitch the night before. The amount of times they were slipping over, that is just pressure. That is a real desperation about everything that they do. Mentally, you're desperate and that manifests itself in a physical way. You're rushing, you're lunging for things. It is just about instilling more belief. Ange Postecoglou also spoke out about goalkeeper Antonín Kinský. He said, I feel for Tony. I brought him into the club. He is an outstanding young goalkeeper. He is unbelievable with his feet. He is a fairly confident young man. It would have hurt though. We know how brutal the football industry is. He's just got to rebound from it. Now, the Daily Telegraph have just reported that Antonín Kinský is expected to seek a summer loan move away from Tottenham Hotspur in an effort to rebuild his goalkeeping career. Dominic Solanke has been talking to Sky Sports about Tottenham's current situation and the Liverpool game on Sunday. He said, we are the first to admit we haven't been anywhere near good enough in the league, but we need to try and make sure we turn it around as soon as possible. Football can turn in the click of a finger. It can change so quickly. We are just waiting for that moment and we are working so hard to turn that around. I'm positive that we can, and hopefully we can get one result and we can kick on from there. We need to be better in every department. We are trying to stay positive. We are all wanting to turn things around. We want to be the ones out there to change it. We need to be brave. We need to be strong and have belief, which we do. We're just taking things game by game. That's important, not to look too far ahead. We need to focus on the next game and figure out what we can do to get a result. It is another opportunity against Liverpool on Sunday, and that is the way we have to see it. It is another chance for us to turn it around, turn the form around and the results. Solanke then went on to say it is not going to be an easy game away at Liverpool. No game in the Premier League is easy, but especially away at Anfield. We know it is going to be difficult, but we have to believe. We have to be brave. On our day, we can beat anyone, but we have to show it, and we have to do it on the pitch. We haven't showed it. We haven't showed anywhere near enough recently, and that is something we want to change. We have another chance to do that at the weekend. Now, pundit Chris Sutton has been talking about the Liverpool v Spurs game on Sunday. He said, how on earth can anyone back Spurs to get anything at the moment? Igor Tudor is making me look like I was a competent manager when I was in charge of Lincoln. The Spurs fans in Madrid were singing about playing Lincoln away next season. The Imps are top of League One. Can you imagine me up against Tudor in the dugout? He has taken over a difficult situation, but he has gone about things in a very odd way. Sutton then goes on to say it might be one thing in Croatia or Italy to go into a club and tell the players some truths and say that they are rubbish, but there is one thing doing it behind closed doors and another thing doing it publicly. There just seems to be so many things wrong at Spurs. They sacked Thomas Frank thinking that they were going to get this short-term fix from Igor Tudor, but they have got a guy who has had a short-term shocker. Liverpool are far from convincing either. Mind you, it is not impossible that Spurs scramble a win here because of Arne Slot's side were lousy in Turkey on Tuesday against Galatasaray. Slot has got the second leg against Galatasaray to think about, but they will make changes, but they surely can't lose to Tottenham, can they? Sutton's prediction is 2-0 Liverpool. Now, Tottenham Hotspur Football Club have extended their season ticket deadline due to threat of relegation. The club have announced the period to renew general admission season tickets will run until the 7th of June 2026. In a club statement, it said, we recognise the seriousness of the current league position of our men's team, and following discussions with our fan advisory board and the Tottenham Hotspur Supporters Trust, we can confirm the renewal window for the 26-27 campaign will remain open for an extended period until Sunday the 7th of June to ensure fans have full clarity on next season before renewing. Everyone at the club remains absolutely steadfast in our collective commitment to improve our Premier League position and finish the current season as strongly as possible. The Daily Mail have just reported that Bayern Munich are interested in signing Archie Gray. The Daily Mail have also stated that Spurs defender Luka Vušković, currently on loan at Hamburg, is not keen on returning to Tottenham. He wants a move elsewhere. And Spurs legend Chris Waddle, speaking on BBC 5 Live, he said it's become a business and football's become second to the board at Tottenham. You need someone to go in there who is football-minded and wants to make Tottenham great again. Tottenham should never be outside the top four. Now, my thoughts on everything in this episode, and I've covered everything on a Sky Sports interview that I did earlier today on Thursday. So have a listen to this. Let me know whether you agree with some of the things that I said. Let me know whether you disagree with anything that I said. But everything covered in this episode was covered in the Sky Sports interview on Thursday. Let me know what you think.
Chris, hello again. Were you expecting Tudor to go yesterday morning or maybe even Tuesday night?
Tom, Charlie, good morning to you. Yeah, my reaction was pretty much the same as Jamie O'Hara's. I got on an early flight from Madrid yesterday morning, and when I got off that flight, I fully expected that we would get that decision that he would be going out the door. I don't agree with what Charlie said there, because when you look at the 4 games under Tudor, we are actually a worse team than what we were under Thomas Frank, and I don't think the players are playing for him at all. He's gone in there all guns blazing and just complained about everything, told the team how bad they are defensively in midfield and attack. And I think at the moment these players need a lift. They need their arm round them, and they need their egos massaging a little bit. You know what footballers are like. You know, you need to get the very best out of them at the moment, and Igor Tudor is definitely not doing that. And when you look at his record, 4 games, 4 defeats, and the manner of the defeats, you know, we've been well beaten in all 4 of the games. And in the last 6 games now, we've lost the whole lot. And that's the first time that's happened in our entire history since 1882. So Spurs are in a real problem at the moment. But as Charlie mentioned there about the owners, the board, who are making these decisions? Everyone in the football world can see that Spurs are a worse team now than what we were under Thomas Frank. We are in real big trouble. We've got 9 games left in the Premier League, 1 point above the relegation zone. Who on earth are making these decisions? Igor Tudor, for me, has to go.
Chris, I understand. Listen, I totally understand. That's from a passionate Spurs fan that go and watch the football club home and away and abroad. I totally understand that. And this is the biggest thing for Tottenham, who are making these decisions, right? But that is bringing the players in, that is bringing management staff in, that's bringing coaching staff in, that's going down to bringing physios in, because the injury record that Tottenham have had over these past 2 years have been nothing short of abysmal. The list is like an endless list of players, main players, good, big, important players for Tottenham Hotspur are not able to get on the pitch and perform for the football club. And that's why I feel like you've found yourself in a situation like this, yes. But do you think that the players that are fit and available at the moment, this is just their level? They are bottom half Premier League players, or do you really believe that they are top 6 Premier League players?
I wouldn't say top 6, Charlie, but I don't think that we are, you know, we're not...
Some of them are.
We're not a 16th club. we shouldn't be 16th. We should be a lot better. And, when I was at the game against Atletico Madrid, you can tell that some of these players are simply not listening to the manager. They don't believe in this manager. And when you see that clearly, that they don't believe in this manager, what he is trying to do, and the way that he dealt with the Kinský situation, I thought was absolutely terrible from a man management point of view. That was absolutely shocking, the way that he let him just walk down that tunnel and subbed him off after just 17 minutes. He made that decision. He should have owned it. But, going back to your question, I think that, Spurs, these players, they need to give a lot more. We know that they're capable of a lot more. But as you also said, the board members, the owners, the manager, the players, we need to see more out of all of them, because we are in a very dodgy position right now, only 1 point above the relegation zone.
He was asked after the game, are you still the right man for this job? And he said no comment. How much does that worry you?
It worries me a lot, Tom. I don't think that he likes the media. He certainly don't want to engage in the media. I don't know how he got this job, actually. It certainly wasn't with his charisma, because, this guy is pretty rude. I sat behind the dugout the other night, and the way that he just speaks to his staff, shouting and hollering at them, I can't see this working at all, and it really does worry me with the remaining 9 fixtures. We've got 27 points to play for. Where are the next points coming from? Because when you look at all of our fixtures, there's no easy game in the Premier League. And like I said earlier, the 4 games we've been well beaten. 4-1 against Arsenal, 2-1 against Fulham. That should have been a lot more. 3-1 against Palace. And I think that the reality really hit home amongst all of the Spurs fans of this is a real reality of us being relegated, because where are the performances coming from? Where are the results coming from? These players are shot of confidence. And that performance the other night, 5-2 against Atletico Madrid, Spurs at the moment are such an easy game. They're such an easy opponent, because we're so easy to play against. And, we needed a manager to come in to replace Thomas Frank to make us difficult to play against and difficult to beat.
And everything you go off there, Chris, just on that about the results, and you go to Anfield on Sunday.
Yeah.
And what's your expectations there? For all the players, the management staff, the fans, everyone's confidence are real low, and then you're going to Anfield on Sunday. What's your expectation going into that game?
Charlie, I'm sure that you had difficult times at Anfield as well when you played. But, Spurs have won twice there at Anfield in the last 40 years, twice in Premier League history. We know that that's a very, very difficult place to go. Of course, no Van de Ven either. And, Spurs are going to have a difficult time at Anfield. And, I'm not looking forward to it, to be honest.
Well, let's go through these fixtures then, because you were saying you don't know where your next points are going to come from. All right, I know you've said it's tough against Liverpool. Go through those Premier League games and tell us what you're going to do in each one, win, lose or draws.
Well, the thing is, Tom, it's very difficult to predict, because we don't know what Spurs are going to turn up, and what the Spurs team we've seen so far in these performances under Tudor haven't been good enough. But if we lose at Anfield on Sunday, do you really want a manager going into that Nottingham Forest game, that such crunch game at the Tottenham Hotspur Stadium? Tudor, 5 games, 5 defeats. Do you really have confidence that Tudor is going to go into that Nottingham Forest game and get a result? I don't.
No, but Chris,
and I tell you what, the Spurs fans don't have any confidence in him.
No, Chris, but picking up on where you couldn't go through them fixtures, etc., and you say you don't know what Spurs team's going to turn up. When was the last time Spurs played a solid 90 minutes, or did they play a back-to-back good performances? How long are we going back now? Because I feel like we've had this conversation for like 2 years over Tottenham Hotspur.
Yeah, that's a very good conversation. And who appointed Thomas Frank? Why did they think that Thomas Frank was the right man? And most importantly,
I did think he was the right man, by the way. I can't rewrite history. I thought Thomas Frank was perfect. It just hasn't worked out. So I don't think that was a ridiculous appointment.
OK, but most importantly, Tom, why on earth give him all of that time? You could see clearly it wasn't working. You could see clearly that we weren't going in the right direction. They should have made that sacking a lot.
Would you prefer to still have him now than Igor Tudor?
Thomas Frank had to go. But
would you prefer to have Ange still in charge, Chris?
Yes, I would. Yeah, I think that anyone right now... Do you know what? I never, ever thought I'd be saying this as a Spurs fan, but Spurs need someone like Sean Dyche right now to get us out of this trouble.
But Jamie O'Hara said it yesterday, and yeah. Charlie, you're a big fan of Sean Dyche as well. If Sean Dyche's in charge of that home game against his old club, Nottingham Forest...
but let's be very clear. But let's be very clear, Chris. He ain't coming in and rubbing anyone's ego, mate. Let's be very clear. He's not doing that.
but he knows how to get results. He knows how to make a team difficult to beat in the Premier League. Of course, he has that Premier League experience as well. And like I said, I didn't ever think that I'd be saying Sean Dyche needs to be managing Spurs. But from now until the end of the season, we are in such a desperate situation, and it calls for, desperate measures. But going back to your question about where are the wins coming from, I don't know about the Sunderland away one, Tom. I don't know whether I mentioned that to you, but Spurs ought to be all looking at the Wolves away game, the Leeds home game, and the Nottingham Forest home game. These are absolutely crunch games. But like I said before on this show, when you look at the likes of West Ham, when you look at Nottingham Forest, even Wolves, the amount of grit and passion that they are putting into games right now, and they're getting results. And we're in the middle of March, and Spurs are the only team in the Premier League not to have won a game in this calendar year. So it is very, very worrying times right now.
Yeah, worrying time. Do you think that Tudor will still be in charge on the last game? Well, when the season ends, do you think he'll make it to the end of the season, and do you think he'll stay up?
Tom, I don't even want him in charge for the Liverpool game.
But do you think he will be?
I hope not. I hope not. I hope the Spurs make that change before the Nottingham Forest game, because, like I said, you can't go into that Nottingham Forest game 5 defeats out of 5 games, and the morale is just so low as well, and these players need a lift. And do I think we'll be relegated at this current time with these performances? Yes, I do. We need a miracle.
Good honesty, Chris. That is good honesty. That's good.
Well, I'm not going to sit here and play it up, because I'm not going to give false hope or false positivity. What we've seen in recent weeks, this is not good enough. The board either need to say, look, we are going to invest this amount of money, or they need to sell. The owners need to sell, because we cannot be in this position again. Yes, 22 league defeats last year. Yes, we won the Europa League last season. It turned out to be a success by winning the Europa League. But the league form was not good enough at all. And we have gone round in circles with so many different managers. Surely the board and the owners have to realise, look, we can't be in this position either. Being so close to relegation and being in this position, it's awful. It's awful as a Spurs fan right now. We're all having sleepless nights.
Yeah, Tottenham fans really not happy at the moment. Chris, appreciate your time.
Thanks, Chris.
Thank you. Thanks for watching, and thanks for listening. I hope you enjoyed it. If you're watching on YouTube, please do hit that subscribe button, like, share and comment below. And if you listen to this on an audio platform, please do hit that follow button and leave a review if you can. Enjoy the rest of your week. Enjoy the weekend. I'll see you on the next one. Stay safe and well. Come on, you Spurs.